Welcome everyone to I the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's pick a card reading was a viewer request. The viewer was wanting me to have a look at what is your next step. So this, I guess, it is a general reading, so anybody potentially could come to it, even if you don't have a particular vexing problem on your mind at the moment, because obviously if we're going to look at things around love and career and finance and well-being and lifestyle and so forth, that is a pretty broad range of things that we all experience in our lives. And so hopefully there will be some messages and guidance here for you even more generally. But I think the people who probably get the most out of the reading are people who, like the viewer, I think are looking for some ideas about the next step in one or more aspects of their life. It probably will mean either that someone has a very confusing situation they want to address. It could be that they're feeling a bit blocked or stuck and want to come out of that sense. It could be that they're about to level up to a new level of competition and want to be really ready for it. It could even be that there's some options on the table and trying to choose which one is the best one could be a little bit hard to do. So in any sort of circumstance across any aspect in your life, that's what we're going to try and cover today. We're going to firstly have a look at three key areas of your life. So love and relationships is one, career and finance is another, and your sort of general well-being, lifestyle, that sort of thing is the third. And what's a kind of central theme around all of them and what's unique around all of them. And that may well tell us where the key issues are for you. But even if not, the next step of the reading is that I'm going to ask you, so bear this in mind, to think of a couple of yes/no answer questions that are really core to whatever issue you're dealing with or issues. So it may be that I guide them particularly to where we seem to have key information in the first part of the reading. It may also be that it's done more generally. Either way, it's fine, because I'm not going to be telling you with the yes/no whether the answer is yes or no. It's going to be the sorts of considerations that bring to bear and the energies around those sort of options, so that then you make your choice, because it's important that you do that. So even if I'm focusing on an area that's not quite where your question is, don't feel constrained. Think about the two top questions that are uppermost in your mind, and we're going to go through each of those one by one. And then we'll close out with some other sorts of oracle advice just to bring it all together for you. So I hope that that's going to be enjoyable and helpful for you. As always, it's important to pick the right pile or piles. You can go to more than one if you feel that the messages may be across more than one. That may be the case. To help with the choice, I'm using the Chakra Placement Stones. So I have the root chakra in pile 1, the solar plexus, the sacral chakra in pile 2, and the solar plexus chakra in pile 3. They're not about those particular chakra energies, but I think those 3 chakra energies are important to the questions about next steps in life. So their energies will be across all the readings, I believe. But I put them there to see if that helps you determine which pile or piles is right for you. You may have other ways of determining that. Whatever works for you is fine. When you know which pile or piles you want to go to, I've got the timestamps down in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So these cards were under the Chakra Placement Stone, and just beneath those cards were the runes that we have there, which is the first part of this reading. It is rather difficult. You can see the imagery of the tarot, but it's rather difficult to read the actual names of the cards, so I will go through those as I look at each. This is around love and relationships, this is career and finance, and this is your general well-being, your lifestyle and so forth. And the runes at the centre are meant to give us an overarching energy that connects them all. So there's something very transcendent about this layout, I have to say. There's something very transcendent about you, pile 1. So although we're going to be looking a lot at what I would call 3D day-to-day sort of issues, there is something that comes from within you that is about your spirituality, about your growth, and about coming into a natural leadership with others around that, and a transcendent energy, as I say. That's what I keep getting over and over with this. And I'll explain why as I go through. There's also a sense of major change around your relationships. I feel like a big issue that's here then bleeds into how you operate in the two other areas. So this is crucial. A learning in this space is crucial to both your career and also to your general well-being, but it's all leading to the center. And I know that sounds a bit mysterious, so let me start at the center, and then I will talk this through and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So the runes that you have in the center, so to bring this together, firstly there's Gebo, which is about partnership, and there's a lot in this about finding the right partners, the right connections, and a connection to the higher self, and there's a lot of that in this particular space as well. But it's about union, and I feel in this case, because you also have Suelo, which is about being whole within yourself, the sun energy, your life path and so forth. There is something around, I feel, a sacred or divine union for you. If you haven't met this person already, you're going to in this life. And there's something about the decisions at the moment that you are making that will take you towards that. Or if you have met that person and you have that sense that you're at home with yourself and with another in a union and a collaboration, it's giving you the strength to deal with issues here so that you and possibly the other person together as a collaboration become leaders and awaken your soul and become who you can be in the world in, as I say, a very transcendent way. So whatever your questions are going to be about, one of the core issues for all of this is about the right partnerships that make you feel at home in yourself. So let's have a look first at the relationship side of things. So this could be talking about a current relationship you're in, a love relationship, or it may not be about love. I do feel that there's a significant divine love connection for you either now or in the future, coming off all of this sort of energy and working with this energy. So I don't think that relationship is the one that's here, because the one that's here is one that you've got to move away from, one that you've got to liberate yourself from. And it may not be, particularly with some of what's over here in love, it may be around career or creativity or something like that, because this is the Emperor reversed, this is Judgment reversed, and then we have the 16th hexagram of enthusiasm reversed with the dog totem reversed. And together that suggests that there are a relationship or relationships around you that are not well calibrated for power. The power dynamic is not right. In fact, there could very well be someone who is very controlling around you. It could be a family member, it could be a workmate, it could be a manager, or it could be a love relationship, though I think with most that's probably not the case. I think it's more in the other areas of your life, but you know, you'll know better as you're listening to this. And you found it very hard to make your own decisions and determine your own life because of it. With Judgment reversed, it's almost like your decisions around relationships, who you want to be, how you want to act in the world have been taken away from you in some way. And whether it's literally that there was something that was yours that was taken away, and so therefore you feel like you lost control of it, that you were done over in a sense by somebody, or whether, and I think this is probably more the case for most, that you are just around someone or an environment where the relationships are very controlling. And the risk for you if you don't move away from this is with the dog, because the dog is very loyal and you are a very loyal person. When you find the right partnerships, you very much connect to them. You don't give up easily on people or on situations, and that can make you end up feeling exploited or enslaved in some way. There's a dependency around it. If you think about it in its most extreme, and I don't think for most of you it will be, but I'm just going to give you this example. When dogs are mistreated, they often become more dependent on their masters than if they were, treated properly. There's a sort of almost learned helplessness around it. So I don't think for most of you it's as extreme as that, but I think this is a message to say you are too much of a leader, and you're too transformative and transcendent as a person to stay stuck in this energy, because it's taking away your sovereignty for some reason. So there's definitely a question around people in your environment, whether, as I say, it's work or friendships or family or love. There is something there that you've got into a pattern, and it's time. Spirit really wants you to move on, because there's a lot they have for you to do, to be frank, in your life and so forth. Because when we move over to career, we have Awaken, which is an additional card in this deck, and to me, with the serpent there and the sort of like Ouroboros sort of sign, this is about awakening to a higher purpose. This is this transcendent side of things. And then over here, I'm going to have to look at this again myself. Yes, that's right. It's the Eight of Swords reversed. So that is freedom from mental tension. And then we have relationship as the core around your career, with the family hexagram of 37. And the totem of the vulture. Now, the vulture gets a bad rap because really the vulture is extremely loyal, tends to mate for life. So there's something, I think, that your divine union, your connection is somehow going to be connected around career and finance in some way. It could just be that, it becomes a marriage or something like that, where there's that kind of career, financial sort of connections. But I think for many, that's where you're going to meet the person if you haven't met them already. So that vulture totem is important there. But the vulture also clears away the debris, clears away what is no longer working. So when we have an energy around your career and finances, around awakening to who you are, coming out of this energy into awakening who you are and freeing yourself, and I think others, because there's something tribal about the relationship, the family, I Ching hexagram as well. There's something about, I think that you will... classically, this could be someone who realizes there's a despotic manager, for instance, and who finds a way to help liberate other people, maybe goes to another organization and then actually poaches other people into it to help them escape this unhealthy environment. Now, it's not going to be that for everybody, but that's just an example of that energy. For many, this is very spiritual, though, very transcendent. It's finding your tribe and somehow connecting that to your career. In some way, your career and finances become connected to your leadership ability and your connections and so forth, and your capacity to liberate others from the limiting self-beliefs that they have, because you've done it. It almost happened to you. I don't feel like you're going to fall under this. I just feel like that's the pressure that's around you at the moment. But there's something in that is teaching you, it's accelerating your development. So it's kind of like sometimes when we find ourselves in a very difficult situation, it's, I think there's a term that's not being done to you, it's being done for you. Now, I don't believe that's always the case. Sometimes we are dealing with reversals, and that's what they are, and we learn from them if we can, but we move on from them as quickly as we can. But at other times, I think we're almost shown something by going through it ourselves so that we can fully empathize and come to a higher level of understanding that then helps others. And that's the energy I feel around this for you. Then, down in your well-being, there's you connecting it to your spirit and to your body. With the 42nd hexagram, which is about increase, that is definitely a sense of sort of bliss and growth and all of those wonderful things. So once you've liberated and you've found your cause, which is what I think this is, there is a sense of great joy and liberation and connection. Extremely good for a divine union in terms of connections on the sort of more enjoyable end of the scale, let's put it that way. And the tiger energy, the tiger is a connection in this particular pack, and in the tiger as a totem, a connection to your own divinity, to your own sense of self. Very much suggests things like meditation, tantra, all those sort of things connect you to that. But you need to understand that is part of you. That is not a delusion. This is actually asking you. This hexagram is asking you to exalt in that, to understand that about yourself, because you are awakening others in your career. You are definitely doing that, and you are meant to be a leader around that. So that is important. If you are wondering, like, how did I end up in this situation, and what do I do with my career? Like, I feel like I'm a bit stuck. By liberating yourself and awakening yourself to who you truly are, which is this energy here, then you can do that. And the tarot cards around here, we've got the Hanged Man. That's a different perspective, I think. It's you need to look at yourself differently. Partly the reason you've got into this situation, I think, is that you've underestimated yourself incredibly, Pole One. You've really thought you were part of a team, you were part of the pack, so to speak, and you had to follow others. The authority is the appeal to authority almost, which took away your capacity to choose. Once you realise you're meant to be the leader in whatever this is, and you can be in your own sovereignty, then, and have that different perspective, you awaken to that. And then we have the Three of Wands. That's when you really connect to the right people, and you have that sense that you can go on that journey in a creative explosion of creative energy actually coming out of that, new directions, new opportunities. So for you, in terms of your life and in terms of what's your next step, it's about understanding yourself. It's about, and potentially through the lens of a divine union, if you have come across that person. If you haven't, I suspect that you will, coming off, it's like you start here, you move to there, and then you own this. It's like you start with understanding where you've limited yourself and let others tell you what to do. You move into liberating others in a similar way, and that brings you to a sense of who you really are and a new perspective and a new creative energy. So I feel that the key areas of this choice are probably going to be about understanding this and then understanding yourself, because I think that kind of naturally follows. But we will see what else we get. So I'm going to use the heart code oracles for each of these. I'm going to use a couple of cards for each to pick up elements of love and relationships, career and finance, and well-being and lifestyle and so forth, just to see if there's any more information around that before we move into the part of the reading, which is where you ask questions. So you may have had questions in mind that don't fit with this. That's fine. You can use those already, or it might be that you modify the questions having heard this, but that's completely up to you. But just have that sort of, in your mind for the moment as we go through this, so that you will know what the questions are that you want to ask. So we're going to start with love and relationships. So we want a little bit more information around what this liberation is. What are the energies around that for your next step, pile one. So that says confront. These can be a little bit hard to read, and then harmony. Okay, that's good. That they can be a little bit hard to read because of the gold gilt on them, but that's what the words say. So that shows us a progress. It says confront. You do need to confront this. I think it's confronting it within yourself as well. It's confronting the fact that you have abrogated your own decision making to some degree. It may be that you haven't had a lot of choice about that to date. It might be that you've been just starting a career, for instance, and you have to follow what the rules are within the career because you haven't yet achieved the power and so forth. That's possible. It's not meant as a criticism, but confronting either within yourself so that you know how to awaken your own energies, or potentially confronting someone who is trying to control you. That depends on you, but there's harmony here. So I think that suggests, what it's telling me for most of you is that confrontation direct with the person is probably not going to work, because I don't think you're going to necessarily be able to bring harmony into that type of energy. But I think understanding that harmony with your right people and with yourself and with the divine union is what you're aiming for. So it's confronting within yourself. What have you given up for the sake of peace and harmony? What do you need to do differently? But I don't feel like this is confronting someone full on. I feel like it's looking at that in yourself and owning what you might have given up of your own sovereignty, and for the sake of peace, for the sake of just getting along, because the people that require that of you are not the right people to be in your life. So it may take a little bit of time if it's in your career or something like that to move into another environment. And again, that's why you need to understand the dynamic on you, confront what's happening with you, but keep the peace till you're moving on, but be thinking about moving on if that's the case. If it's around friends, family or whatever, it may be that you can't take this head on ever. If it's with a parent, if it's with a sibling or something like that, you may make the deal with yourself, understanding the impact on you, but saying, I'm going to keep the peace here because I'm going to focus on other areas of my life. So you'll know what that balance is. And for some, you may confront the person, in which case maybe there's something in you that you can bring harmony to the situation. But I think for most that won't be the case. If you're wondering about that, maybe make that one of the questions, because I just sense with the energy of a reversed Emperor and a reversed Judgment, the person or people you're talking about are not people who are particularly open to other points of view. Okay, let's have a look at a card each for career and finance over here, where I think you are going to start to awaken to your leadership ability. So what other information do we have around that? So firstly, we have investor, okay. And then we have legalities. Okay, so well, those kind of make sense together. I think for many of you, there will be something, if it hasn't already happened, and this might be part of this connection. With some of you, it may not be a divine love union. It may, in fact, be an investor or a benefactor in some way, but I think that something is coming through which will help you awaken to what you could do, where there is funding to come. But it is important to look at the legalities, because the energy you want to have is about how you help the collective, how you help your spiritual approach, and how you free people, including yourself, from things. It may be for some that these two things connect, and in fact this difficult relationship was with an investor, in which case it's probably saying you need to look and get some legal advice about how to disconnect yourself and when you can do that. So that may be part of that liberation. But I think for most of you, this is more than an energy that's coming in, and it's learned from this. This is why I said there's something about this that you're meant to have learnt from, so that the energy that's coming in here is something that you can really move forward with. And it was very much saying, if you are looking for somebody, if you are getting seed funding on some level, make sure you get all the legalities right. You don't want to be tripped up. You don't want to end up in a situation again where you're beholden to someone. But if you do that, if you work that out, there's some very good connections coming through for you. And it's about you awakening to what you can actually do. All right, let's have a look at both lifestyle and general well-being down here, which is you knowing yourself and coming into your spiritual and energetic power, I think. Pile 1. Okay, that says projecting. And that says holistic therapy. Okay, so I think this is picking up here. So now we've got the circle is completing in a way. It's coming together. I think that you did project onto other people your own power. I think this is saying own your own power, own your own tiger, own your own divinity. You've been projecting that out to authority figures. You haven't fully owned your own clarity and understanding of the world, I think, and understanding of people. It feels like another example is sort of someone who's been going through, say, college and university, and you've very much followed whatever your sort of lecturers said, you know, whatever the professor says or whatever the books say. But there's time to come into yourself. Stop projecting your power and your knowing out to others. And it's partly around the hangman. Getting that different perspective is about owning who you are. I think the funny thing about this energy is that really the sense I had right from the beginning was this hugely transformative and transcendent energy here, like really strong spiritual power, but a real self-doubt as well. And I think all of this energy and all that you've dealt with here, which connects back to your well-being, this has had a real impact on your sense of well-being and your sense of lifestyle, is because you've given your power away. And this is all about taking your power back. And it may be with holistic therapy that this is something you need to do to get into that sense, because the tiger, this particular I Ching hexagram is sort of about both the spiritual and the connection with divine, but it's also in the body. So I do think that you're someone spiritually in the body, that, you know, kinesthetic. You're very much, you know, your chakras are really important here. That's going to be important to you. So I think it does suggest, particularly as you're disentangling yourself from this, that some form of holistic therapy may help you, and some form of discussion. I mean, it could just be with a really good friend to reflect back on. This bit around projecting doesn't necessarily have to be around sort of getting professional support. This feels more alternative, really. But there is a sense of understanding how much you've given your power away. And I just think that kind of therapy and so forth, and a good discussion with a good friend, I think is a really great energy. And I'm getting that for some, that good friend may turn out to be more than what you think. There might be something to that relationship. So that's a bit specific, but it's there for some of you. So, okay, we're going to use a different tarot pack now, and we're going to do the 2 questions. So I hope that you've got questions ready. So I'm just going to shuffle for the first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down 3 cards for the energy of yes and 3 cards for no. I think this is, to me, I'm going to be really looking through the lens of liberation and transcendence, because that's the energy here. But you ground it to something specific, a yes, no question. But remember, I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to tell you the energies around each choice. So Think of your first question, pile 1. Okay, so this is yes and this is no. So the energies around yes are incredibly creative. There are creative choices and you're in a very strong position to make a creative choice. It suggests to me with the Ace of Fire there that there is a concept you have at the moment that is somehow connected to the yes answer to this question, and it's just starting to form. But you may be underestimating, because you do underestimate yourself, your strength and capacity to do it. The aces to me are always blessings. Of course, they are blessings that need to be brought into being. They need to be developed and built. So this is something new. I feel like it's something new that you've been thinking about for a while. And this is suggesting that saying yes, owning your strength and your energy around that starts to take you on the journey. And it's interesting, 2 of Fire here, and then under here around your well-being, the 3 of Wands, which is the 3 of Fire. It's something around this, I think, is connected to the journey you go on to become who you are. So there's definitely a sense of a blessing and an opportunity, and you having the strength around the yes. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just saying that that's the energy there. The energy around no is a little bit more complicated. It does look like when you go into no in this question, you go into all the kind of almost intellectual details about it. With the ruler of air there, that's like the Queen or King of Swords. In this deck, the ruler is both those. And so something about no is very precise, it's very structured, it's very academic, but it's still got a connection to your heart with the 2 of Water. So there's an emotional connection to this. It's like it actually feels to me like what happens is that, particularly with the ruler of water, which is like the King or Queen of Cups and reversed, is that when you go into your head, it's maybe a bit to avoid the emotion around something. So there's something around the no answer to this that triggers emotion and makes you go into all the practicalities. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong answer. It may be that it's part of deliberation, that if you've made a decision that something over here is not going to take you where you want, or that captures you more in an existing sort of pattern of being beholden to someone, and this is a sort of like a little bit emotional thing about not going forward with it, then there are the practicalities, the intellectual practicalities, the legalities we talked about around career. But it's just saying that the energy around no is a highly emotional one where you go into your head. So that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing, but it does say understand that. Is that going to help liberate and transcend you, as opposed to saying yes? So that's the energy around that particular question. So let's ask about the second question. So think now about the second question and the energies around yes and no for that. Okay, so for your second question, yes says that you are letting go of something emotional. Yes actually requires you to let go of something, and it's something quite practical as well. With the universe reverse, it's like yes means moving away from maybe something you were pursuing. It means also being more on your own potentially, or looking for new connections, because we have the 3 of Fire reversed there. And that's interesting. Again, as I say, you coming into your strength is about finding the right direction. So yes, in some ways is about working out whether or not there is still something in this that you want to continue. It looks to me like your question is structured such that yes would be that you moved on to something new. Or if you thinking, well, that's not the case, I was thinking, well, I do something, it suggests that the energy around yes is still what you do. If you follow yes, still takes you to somewhere where you have to move away from something you've been working on, or something that you've tried to develop or whatever. It doesn't have a sense of completion. It has a sense of transcendent understanding around what's the next step, but it feels like yes does not show the next step. Over here on no, you've got the transformer of water, which is like the Knight of Cups reversed. We've got the Devil, and then we've got the Creator of Earth, which is like the Page of Pentacles reversed. I think this is whatever this question is, pile one, is almost a bit of a damned if you do and damned if you don't in a way, because if you go yes with something, it's a stage. I guess that's what I'm feeling. It's a stage that you go through and then you move on from. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong thing to do, but it's not a long-term thing. If you say no, it's like you stay a little bit trapped somewhere. It's like you don't, and you may be around people or energies that are not as reliable and not as honest and committed to what it's doing as before. So it feels like either of these options doesn't take you where you want to go. But I think if I had to say between the two, and I'm not trying to tell you which to do, but this energy feels like you get more trapped in something that you know, old patterns and so forth. This feels more like you're doing what you have done before potentially. This feels like you're doing something different, but it's not necessarily for the long term. And there is something coming through for you that's the long term. So, and that may connect to whatever your first question is, and there's connections for the long term, but it may be that yes is the bridge to liberate you, but not to put all your eggs in that basket, if that makes sense. So I do feel that the questions that you have around this, particularly if you've come to the right reading and this is resonating for you, are about, this one it seems to be more about doing something new and something that will build and grow and so forth, but you kind of don't overthink it. This one feels as though there's a transition, and there was a transition. That's why I said right from the beginning, there's something transcendent, transformative in this energy. So I guess it's saying, don't worry about success or failure at this point. Just worry about the journey, because you are on a journey towards transcendence. You're on a journey towards leadership, and you will liberate others. Just the sheer act of you doing these things, like making these decisions, wherever you fall on the yes, no of these, in some ways it doesn't even matter. Even if you stay in this pattern, it may well be that whatever this question is, you need to do that for the moment. It may be that, for instance, if this was, do I sort of leave my work and then look for something else? It may be saying no, because at the moment there isn't something that you can land in. That might be saying it's not the right time for something like that. So that's why maybe you had the sense that you have to look within and not and keep the harmony for a while until you're ready, until the stars align, because this is saying that is going to happen. Okay. So let's also have a look under the Chakra Placement Stone. I had questions from the Stories Oracle for each of the three areas. So now we're going back to love and relationships, career and finance, and well-being. So these are based on the constellation. It's hard to read the writing, so I'm just going to read it out and then put it down so you know the question. So the question for love and relationships is the Equus constellation. And the question is, how can you offer anything authentic to the world if you can't retreat inward? Okay, so this is picking up the sense that you are in an environment around relationships in one way or another where you are kind of stuck, and I think that's the confronting, is going within and looking within. So you can offer more once you do that. And it's sort of interesting, you know, with the horse energy there, I have this sort of sense of the Chariot connected to that as well too, that there's something destined about whatever you've been dealing with so that you can liberate others. But you need to be able to find that place in yourself to know who you are. In career and finance, you have Ophiuchus. Oh, that's probably not pronounced correctly. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that particular constellation's name. The question is, what if just because you can doesn't mean you should? Okay, so this may connect to whatever these questions are. It's like, what is really true to you? I mean, I often say this actually about careers and so forth, and I've said it about my own career. There are different things that I could have done in my career that I had the skills to do, but they weren't really what was in my heart. So this gives me the sense that maybe in a career situation you've done something you're just really, really good at, or, at school, university, college, or whatever, you're doing something that you're really, really good at, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's true to who you are. So a really core question in all of this, pile one, is what's true to who you are, so you come into your own divinity, your own power. So the question around well-being is Virgo. That's easy to pronounce. And the question is, what if you were sovereign unto yourself? Well, there you go. That's telling you. That's the whole point of this reading. This is about you learning from the restrictions on your sovereignty to, I think, not only become who you are and connect to the right union, I think, here, but also to liberate others. So that's pretty exciting. So what we're going to finish up on is just one card from the Creative Soul Oracle. And that's just to sort of say what energy around creating your decisions and the next step is there for you, just as a final piece of advice from Spirit for you in this reading. Communication. Okay, and that makes sense to me, because how and when you communicate your liberation, and I think that is a nuanced thing given this energy, and how you communicate to others the journey that you've been through, and you communicate who you are going to be, I think, a leader in some way. You are going to liberate others in some way. You are going to connect to the right person, I think, for a divine love union. All of these things come back to communication. And that's, with the ruler of air there around the no question there, that's not actually a bad thing that there is that you're thinking about that. You think very carefully about what you say. And I think that is part of your power, part of your rulership or sovereignty is around your communication skills. I'm also getting strongly the throat chakra. So if you are meditating and so forth, think about the throat chakra, think about the energy coming in and out of the throat chakra, because you are meant to lead in some way. You are meant to be an example in some way. And there's something about what you want to do and what your choices and where you feel blocked around communication. But it is, as I say, being done for you rather than to you. And once you really start to see that, really nothing will stop you. So I hope that is helpful. I hope that it helps you work out what your next step is. It's really all about sovereignty and communication. So I hope that that's helpful advice for you. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. And if you can see what this is, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So these cards here are going to represent love and relationships. These are around career and finance, and these are around well-being and lifestyle and so forth. And then in the center we have runes, which are to give an overarching sense of the energy around you at the moment. And I might start with those, and then, as I say, I'll go through each of these to give you a sense about what each area is showing us. I do note that this is an incredibly beautiful set of tarot cards, but it's hard to read what they are. So I'll tell you as we go through what they are if you can't see that on the screen, which I doubt you can. So firstly, right at the center here, this tells me you have got Jera, which is about harvest. It's often something that takes about a year, so there may be around a year in the energy around all of this to really bring something to fruition. It's very positive. It says there isn't a rush overall, but there is a little bit of that here, which we'll talk about. But overall, you can sort of move through and move towards prosperity. And this rune, Ingles, is also about new beginnings, about fertility, about harmony and hard work. So there's an interesting tension between the two of these. This is saying that there's something new, or even the revival and potentially the resurrection of something that you've been working on or you've wanted before, a love, a career, a creative project, whatever it is. There's maybe something that's either new or being resurrected in a way in your life, and that maybe will take about a year to fully come into being, fully be where you want it to be. And on one level, you don't have to hurry things, but on another level, you have to work hard. So there's an energy, and it comes up here as well, which suggests that there's something which is connected in some way, I think, to relationship, though relationships may be what's impacted a creative or career project, I don't know. But there's something where something didn't really work out the way that you wanted it to. Something dimmed this is the Sun reversed, and we've also then got the 10 of Swords reversed. So there's something here with these cards that suggests that your enthusiasm for a relationship or for connections to others was dimmed in some way recently, and you kind of wanted to rest, you wanted to sort of separate. So this, in this particular pack, is one of the cards that has an animal totem that is beyond the I Ching, the 64 I Ching hexagram. So this is about, it's called the slug, and it is about rest, but when it's reversed, it's saying it's time to stop resting. It's time to stop wallowing in whatever that was. And I don't mean that as a criticism, but it looks as though you slowed things down around relationships for some reason. You didn't want to make a decision. Everything was a bit dramatic with the Ten of Swords, but it's saying the drama, whatever the drama was around this relationship or these relationships, that is starting now to dissipate. Whatever it was with the Ten of Swords reversed is now shifting. And so it's sort of, don't stay stuck in that energy. It's time to revive and resurrect something, I feel. I feel like it's more around a creative or career project potentially than an actual relationship, because these energies seem to really follow each other. It's like, come out of the rest period, come into the hard work, etc. of the rune, resurrect or change or transform what it was that you were doing and the connections that you had to do it so that you can move forward. And then there's a sort of gentle energy of, don't rush once you're doing that, just take it as it needs to come. So those three cards from the I Ching seem to be sequential to me, and that's why I feel it connects across the board. So if this is around a love relationship, there's something around one that was a bit dramatic and kind of had an impact on your self-esteem in some way, and it made you maybe withdraw from relationships. But if that's the case, it's saying, no, you need to come back out into the world, whether it's to find the next great love or whether it's just to reconnect with people, because the worst of that is over, and it's important now to move into manifesting something. And there's very strong manifestation energy here for you around career and finance, because we do have the resurrection I Ching, which is about progress, and it has the beetle, which in Egyptian mythology was very much about resurrection, rebirth, and so forth. So this is about moving forward. It's about renewal. It's got a sun energy about it, which is interesting, because over here around relationships we had the sun reversed. Now we have this is why I feel it's a progress. Once you actually start to revive the sun, it's literally like the sun coming up at dawn. It's like it's always darkest before the dawn. So that energy is coming through for you, and you're meant to be very materially well off. You're meant to be someone who is very, either in their own business or very senior in what they're doing, very accomplished, materially very well off, with the King of Pentacles and the Devil card. Now, often the Devil card means being trapped in something, but I don't actually feel that energy at all around this. I feel the Devil energy around that is part of the resurrection. It's part of coming out of the drama of whatever was over here. And I feel the Devil in that case is more the material world. It feels very Capricornian to me. So I get the energy more of the Capricornian side of the Devil card than the boundary side. And that then connects with almost a King Midas feeling around the Pentacles. You are meant, there is something coming for you if you do the hard work, and probably over the next year, I think, to really establish yourself. But for whatever reason, around a relationship, whether it's love, family, friends, or career, you kind of lost that momentum for a while, and it was all very dramatic. You are the sort of person who, because of this energy, probably does draw drama to you sometimes, because that degree of manifestation ability and that degree of being able to resurrect stuff and sort of start again and move on can threaten people. So I think you may threaten people a bit, but you are definitely, if there are questions for you at the moment about the next step, about what can I really establish, how can I establish myself in the world, you absolutely can. And do not sit in the energy that made you kind of withdraw and just want to, I mean, you probably did need to rest for a while. I'd say something has happened that you did need to kind of take time out. But that time out's done, and it's time to get into things. And yes, you don't have to rush everything. Down here in your well-being, we have gentleness, the hexagram of approach, the moving forward gently, carefully. You don't have to kind of tread all over everybody or be really, kind of the person who holds the purse strings all the time. You can actually be gentle with yourself and with others to move forward. Highly sensitive to what's going on around this. There's something very natural about this. You may be working in or creating something that is very connected to the natural world, I feel, for some of you. But there is a sense of you don't need to force it too much. It will gradually approach towards you with the hard work that you do. It's more about hard work and material effort than it is about competition. I think you may have dealt with some competition. I feel like the next cycle is more about you just learning from that, refocusing, moving forward, and so forth. And the cards, that the tarot cards, we've got the Knight of Cups reversed, and then we've got the Eight of Pentacles. So this together makes me feel like there was something, a craft, an ability, a passion, something you were learning that you really, really love, and will somehow connect this and start to make the money for you and probably bring better relationships in as well. But this is the focus, I think, at the moment over the next 12 months. It's something that you love but you lost your passion for a while. Something happened around a relationship. It could have been a love relationship with the Knight of Cups, but it doesn't have to have been. It could have been, collaboration with others, something you really lost that sense of fire and that sense of love of learning and building and so forth. But that's part of the reason, that natural thing in you when you turn that card around and reclaim your love of learning and craft and being excellent at things, like really doing something precisely and beautifully and innovatively and all those sort of things. That's how you bring in this sort of energy. So there's a kind of a narrative structure to this pile two, which is some disappointment that kind of took you off course, made you sort of doubt what you were doing. The worst of that is absolutely over. It is time now to reclaim who you are and that really strong manifesting ability. Like, I feel like the combination of the King of Pentacles and the Devil there is like the Magician card to me. I'm feeling like it's that kind of energy around you, that manifestation energy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a little bit more information on each of these. So I'm going to use the Heart Code Oracles, Love and Relationships one, a couple of cards there, a couple of cards around career and finance, a couple of cards around well-being and lifestyle, just to get some more information for you before we move into the stage where we're going to be asking some questions. So do think about the 2 yes/no questions that you want to look at as we go through this part of it. So firstly, I'm going to use the Heart Codes Love and Relationships Oracle to get a couple of bits of extra information around that for you. So firstly we have Love from Beyond. I'm telling you what they say because it's a little bit hard to read it, I think, on the screen. And the second one is Expectations. Okay, so that suggests to me that you're very spiritually connected. Might be why you're such a master manifestor, actually. And there is love from beyond. For some of you, actually, I'm getting maybe somebody, this is very specific, it's not going to be everybody, but maybe somebody in your ancestral background or maybe even someone in your family passed on in the last year or so. Maybe that was part of the dimming of the sun and that sort of sense of the dramatic that you needed to recover from. Like for some of you, you might literally have been getting over grief. But if that's the case, I'm getting definitely that they're still around you, that there is love coming to you from beyond. For other people, it is that there is a spiritual connection around you. It's meant to gently prod you to understand that you can start to have expectations again, because it looks like you just, in both of these things, it looks like you stopped having expectations. It looked like you stopped having belief. And of course, there's always that thing too. If you are a master manifestor, which you are, if you start to have expectations that are negative, you bring that in just as much as having expectations that are positive. So it certainly says commune in to the love from beyond. Some of you might be natural mediums, in actual fact. So if you have a sense of somebody, a past loved one, an ancestor or whatever around you, you're probably absolutely right. And understand their expectations for you are to come out of this period of getting over something to move into who you're meant to be. So let's get some information about that. Let's look at career and finance and see what this King of Pentacles is meant to be for you. This has got minimization. Again, I think it's a bit difficult to read the things. So minimization, which is around financial stuff, so we'll get to that. And then around career, trust. Okay, so I think the two of those things together, it suggests to me that there's something, because as I say, you're meant over the next year, and it is going to take some time, it's a step-by-step thing, you are meant to sort of move into a period of great great abundance with the King of Pentacles there, and to have your own power and control over what you're doing in some way. But to get there, you need to do two things. Firstly, you need to minimize any expenditure that you don't need to do. So if you are thinking about your career and so forth, any investments that you might want to do in that, particularly if you want to start your own business, minimize, keep it clear, keep it simple, because this is this gentle step-by-step thing, and it's more about the work than just throwing money at something. And then there's trust that you are going to be able to bring this into being, and also being trustworthy, because when you've got that energy around the King of Pentacles and the Devil, you need to be aware you could come across to people like someone who might be controlling or something like that. So you need to show trust in others. And to the degree that you really are a natural leader and manifester, I think maybe minimizing that sort of sense of that as well too, like bringing people along with you. That's part of this gentleness energy down here that will also help you physically in your lifestyle and your well-being and so forth. So speaking of such things, let's have a look at some lifestyle and well-being information for you down here. Got nature. That's nature twice. It's definitely suggesting that for some of you, well, getting out into nature will help you. That's important. But it also, I think some of you are working or creating something in the natural sort of realm, and maybe some form of healing or therapeutics or something like that. And guarded. Okay. So that's coming off, I think, whatever has happened before. And this is going to be one of your challenges, like who to trust, when to be guarded, when to show things. But again, a step-by-step gentle approach. It's almost like trust but verify. Come from the basis with people that you will trust them, but be guarded. Don't give away too much. And that may literally be connecting to that as well too, about minimizing how much information you give to people till you know that you can trust them. Maybe there was something up here which was dramatic where people weren't trustworthy. So being guarded is actually helpful for you here, but not if you stay stuck in it. This is part of the resurrection sort of energy and the gentleness. It's like do it for the period of time that you need to do it and not beyond that, because you are meant to be manifesting something, and I think bringing people along with you to some degree. This feels very, very personal. It feels very much like it's your business, your thing, your career, your mastery, and that's what you're supposed to be focusing on. And that's part of what your nature is. So being true to your nature. Don't try to be something that you're not. Don't try to be less than what you are. Own who you are and put the work in, and then allow the abundance to come in. So let's get to those questions. So as I said in the introduction, I'm going to do 2 questions, and I just want you to think they need to be a yes/no question, and I'm going to put down from another tarot pack what energy is around those. It's not going to necessarily tell you which you should do. I'm just going to talk about what the energy is. To me, this feels like it's about decisions that are integral to resurrecting and building a career or a creative dream, but it could be all around a relationship as well too. So this is, that's going to be up to you as to what your questions are. So if you think about your first yes/no question, I'm going to put down cards for yes and no for each. So yes and no for the first question. And no. Okay, so firstly in this deck, transformers are like knights, creators are like pages in other decks. So the fact you've got 3 knights around yes, there's a real sense of dynamism to that, really moving. Yes, whatever your question is, yes means action. And on its face, that seems to fit with what this energy is saying, like get into it. So you've got fire energy, air energy, and water energy. This suggests a good marriage of action that touches upon your creative, your emotional, and also your intellectual approach to things. So yes is all about action. Whatever it is that you've asked, yes is a call to action, a call to moving forward. Now, the only thing to bear in mind about the knights is that they often act before they think, particularly the transformer of air and to some degree the transformer of fire. So So there is a sense here. I am glad in a way that we also have the transformer of water, which brings this back to the heart, but it feels like it's moving. There's a cry to the heavens energy around yes. And if that's something that you want, if that's what you need to get going on something, then that potentially is suggesting it's a strong option. But no is not a bad option. It's just one that seems to take a lot more effort for you, because we've got the 9 of fire, which is like the 9 of wands, and that sort of, no seems to suggest sticking with something that you've been like not letting go of something, not making a material choice about it yet until you get a little bit more information. So this feels like yes is about I'm going to take a leap of faith. No is about no, I'm going to kind of just stay where I am. I'm going to wait for a bit more information. I'm going to just stick out whatever this is. Now, it's not necessarily saying either is wrong. It's just saying that one is about jumping in and one is about waiting for more information and not making the decision until you get that, but not giving up on something. And it's interesting to me that it fell, that no just naturally fell where the resurrection was and not giving up on something. So again, you will know better when you think about those energies, what that kind of tells you about yes or no. So let's go to the second question. Think of your second question, please. Pile 2. Okay. So yes, in this case, liberates you from something and allows you to sort of start to move towards something that you feel is more just. It may literally bring a contract in or something along those lines. And it's interesting with justice right way up and devil reverse. It suggests if there is a contract around this, if there's some sort of legal question associated with this, that you are likely to be less constrained by whatever this yes is than you were before. But it is still on something that's relatively new. It has a lot of prospects and a lot of good opportunities, but remember that gentleness, remember putting the hard work in. That would be the important energy around that. No is very pragmatic. You're being very pragmatic actually about it. And you need to, and you know there's something with these two together. No is you going, I'm not sure. Even though over here it looks as though you're not going to get caught, no is suggesting that you're not sure that you can trust what is coming towards you and you're being really pragmatic about it. It does also feel like no means you don't get certain resources and you need to go it on your own, but you also have a sense of relief around that, a relief from pain. So this does look as though it's got something to do with a collaboration or a contract or something like that. And this goes back to the no here. I think these two questions are connected in some way, because the no here is about getting more information. The no here is about just wanting to be sure you're not going to be tricked. So they may both, we go back to those first two runes. There was one of them, which was the Jera, which is this one, which is about not having to rush. So there may be a thing here where if there's two different things, this looks like it's more contractually oriented. It looks more like there's sort of legal or, you know, who's doing what type of feelings about it. And it may be that this is the sort of pragmatic wait till you get more information. This is the kind of, I've got that sense of wanting to move forward and I feel like this could liberate me in some way. So again, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying the energies in some ways are a bit similar here. So yes is about just getting on with it and just trusting the universe. No is about waiting for a little bit more time. And it's sort of, that's the balance you've got to work out. It was right there from the beginning in the two runes between not having to rush into things, but equally not using anything as an excuse not to do something. So if you're sitting over in no over here as a kind of an excuse to not act at all, that's probably not a good energy to be using. If it is, however, I am going to act, but I'm going to wait on a bit more information, then that could be reasonable. So given whatever your questions are, you're going to have a better sense of that. So what we're also going to do is we're going to use some other cards that were under the Chakra Placement Stones. And they are from the Stories Oracle, and they have constellations and questions. So we're going to go back to the concept of relationship, career, and well-being for a question for each that might also help you think about how to decide these things and what your next step is. So the question and constellation for love and relationships, the constellation is Apis, and the question is, what if your breakdown is your breakthrough? So there you go. Whatever this drama was around relationships was meant for you as a breakthrough by the looks of things. And seeing it that way and then being able to resurrect out of it is really important. Around your career and your manifestation, you have Argo Navis. What are you protecting in the safety of your memories? Okay, so I think they're connected somehow. There's something, and this is why you've got the kind of, there's the caution that I'm seeing here, that push-pull between wanting to act and the caution. So there may be something that you remembered around relationships, or even around an early thing that you wanted to do, or even something that you used to really love to study and do that you've put aside, but that would actually awaken you. So what are you protecting? And why are you protecting it? And is it protection working for you, pile 2? And then lastly, around well-being, you have Taurus, and it says, how does your rage imprison you? Okay, I think that's going back to there. There's something that's happened to you that made you feel enraged and has made you feel stuck. But if you let that go and you resurrect the energy and gently but surely move forward, then you can sort your way through that. So, pile 2, we're going to finish up with a card from the Creative Soul Mandala Oracle, because I think when we're talking about next steps, we're talking about what you're trying to create in the world. So it's just going to be a last kind of bring it all together type energy around this reading for you. And we've got harmony. So whatever was going on in your relationship area was not harmonious, but the worst of it is over. It said it right from the beginning. And there is a harmony, I think, between the wish to move forward very fast and the wish to take your time. And it's just getting that into balance. I think that's all you need to do. And if that means you veer a little bit towards no for a while, it's more like these questions are yes or no for now, not yes or no long term, because I do think there's an enormous amount of energy and manifestation that's coming for you, but it's important to feel in harmony, to not come from rage or disappointment, to not underneath here with the sense of like, having given up on something that you love, some craft, some learning or whatever, not letting that occur, not letting anything take away from you what you're protecting underneath, in your memories, what you truly wanted to be, who you truly wanted to be. And that will help you make the decisions you need to make. And rest assured, you are heading towards abundance. You are heading towards your harvest. So it's really now, remember, you're in the driver's seat and you make the decisions on what feels right to you. So I hope that helps you with your next step. I think it's about creating something very new and something very, very abundant for you, coming off the back of maybe having learnt some lessons about relationships and who you can and can't trust. It's what I feel about it, so that you go into it with a real sense of pragmatism and wisdom now. So I hope that helps you, pile 2, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you know what this is, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. As long as if this is something creative that you have, you don't give away too much. I always say that. Just don't give away anything that could give somebody your ideas before you're ready to bring them into fruition. Other than that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So what we have here are some of the cards that were under the Chakra Placement Stone. The first 3 here around love and relationships, then career and finance, and then general well-being and lifestyle. And then we have 2 runes that are meant to represent the overarching energy. And it's very interesting. I'm going to start there because it really kind of encapsulates a general feeling I have about this, because you've almost got 2 opposites here. You've got Isa, which is ice. It's standstill, it's surrender, it's having to be patient, it's waiting. So there's something stuck. Certainly the people who've come to this reading have come, I think, because there's an area in their life where they feel stuck. The other energy, however, is Hagalaz, which is about disruption, change, elemental power, the unexpected, the challenge. It reminds me a lot of tower energy in the tarot. So you almost get a sense of something quite rigid and then something almost explosively transformative. Now, this doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, I actually think this is a medicine that is necessary for you, pile 3, because what I'm going to tell you coming out of these, and I'll go into each of them, and I'll tell you what the tarot are, because it's a little bit hard to read what the cards are as we go through, is that you are someone, I need to give a bit of tough love here, who is far, far, far too oriented towards helping others and not enough towards yourself. And, you know, that often comes up in readings, and it's there to some degree, but this is a major thing for you. You are someone who, I think, in both your relationships and in your career, and I wouldn't mind betting that you're in a career where you're dealing with conflict or therapeutics or something like that, in your relationships and in your career, and therefore how it's affecting you in terms of your well-being. You are the mediator, you are the moderator, you are the peacekeeper, you are the person who deals with a hell of a lot of drama. There is a hell of a lot of drama with the 10 of Wands around your relationships. Now, that could be a love relationship that's terribly dramatic and really tiring and really exhausting. But I feel for many of you, this is just your relationships in general. And it's got the Two of Pentacles reversed, which suggests it's hard for you to make decisions around relationships because there's just so much freaking drama around it. So I feel this, I feel it like an energy running through me. I really feel for you that, you know, what you have to deal with. And here we have a really tricky hexagram, but one that I think shows some of your skill, which is why it's coming up here and why you've got to think about it down here. This is the 54th hexagram, called the Marrying Maiden. Now, one of the things about the I Ching is that it is based on sort of old Chinese sort of cultural mores and norms. So something, this is very ancient. I'm not saying it's what happens in China now, but this hexagram talks about a marrying maiden, a woman coming into the household of someone who's already married and having to somehow keep the peace with the wife. So it's a hexagram, if you extrapolate out from that as an example of having to find the balance and the peace and being really nuanced and really careful and really emotionally intelligent in dealing with people and building. It is about building, it is about achievement, it is about drive, but it is also about doing it in a way that doesn't stir up a lot of drama, that takes into account other people's feelings. Now over here, so that's you around relationships. You in relationships, you're always going to be the person who resolves the conflict, all of that sort of stuff. You're going to have an eye for what's going on underneath the shadow of relationships, all of that's way off the charts compared to the other people around you. And people will be either consciously or unconsciously relying on you for that, which makes it hard for you to move away from situations that aren't serving you. And if this is in a love relationship, then what's happened within that is that you're the one who's always got to sort through all the stuff your partner has. And I think there, if this is about a love relationship, it's showing that you feel stuck, but there's a breakthrough. Something's coming to make you go, aha, you know, like I either can resolve this and put back their responsibility to them and we find a way to harmonize it out, or I move on. So, and I think that's more generally in other relationships. You would have been the peacekeeper in your family as well. I think you probably had quite a dramatic family when you were young. And that bleeds over into your career and finances, because here with the 27th hexagram, the corners of the mouth, it's all about giving. And the turkey animal totem is also all about giving. So it comes up when someone is selfless, when they are always about caring and grateful and so forth. And that's a lovely energy. It's a lovely energy. In fact, you have a lovely energy. That's why you sort all this. But I just have to say to you that consciously or unconsciously, people take advantage of that because they just see you as the person who's going to sort everything out. And it's happening in your workplace too. And it may well be that you've chosen, because of those skills and that ability, to work in that sort of area, as I say, in which case that's fine. But just make sure down here, and we'll get to it, that you don't neglect yourself. But I think for many of you, it might be almost like a sideline thing. It's like you're doing something else for your career, or to make money, but somehow you always seem to be having to be the peacekeeper and the person who cares about what's happening to others. You are very unconventional with the Hierophant reversed, and that's good. And whatever you are going to be doing, even if you are in therapeutics or something, you'll be doing it in an unusual way, or you'll bring in something that's new, and that will be incredibly helpful to situations that maybe were stuck before. They're like a breakthrough. But with the Empress reversed, it's like that caring and nurturing. You just need to do something for yourself because it's very draining. I feel like if you are in therapeutics, if you're, say, you're a psychoanalyst, for instance, then you will have somebody that you debrief with. It's very important to make sure that you keep to that regime if that's the case. But there's there's just so much, you give so much. I just feel like it's too much. It's too much. And something is going to come to make you see that. It may be a kind of sense of complete exhaustion, particularly with this energy around people. You just might get exhausted, and that might be your body telling you. Now, getting down to your well-being, we have the need to hibernate. The hexagram of the well, which is about the depths and getting really within and healing within, and with the bear, that is that sense of hibernation, about introspection, depth, going inward. Highly resourceful. You're very, very, very strong. This is why this is happening, and to some degree you just keep on keeping on. But there's a limit. There's a point at which it's not, it's even, I'm getting that it's not even just that you could exhaust yourself, but it's like there's a point at which you have to hand over the responsibility back to other people. Because if you don't do that, then they become dependent on you. And I don't feel like you egotistically want to do that or feel that, but I feel like that could happen. So there's a point at which it is in fact part of the giving nature to give back to people their autonomy and make them start to deal with some of their stuff, as opposed to you always dealing with it. Because down here in your well-being, we've got the Three of Pentacles reversed. So there's something you want to start and build for yourself, but you're not putting the energy into it you could. And we have the Fool energy over here. So there's something really new. Picking up that Hierophant reversed, there's something really new that you could create and bring into the world. And for you, in terms of your well-being, there's a new and different way of doing things, having gone into the well, having gone into the introspection, into the dark night of the soul, whatever that is, that allows you to take a completely new approach and that unlocks whatever this is. I do think this is starting to affect you physically. I do think you're starting to feel exhausted. I do feel you feel like, your exercise regimes are maybe put to the side. You're not spending the time on your general well-being that you could, because you're just doing too much for other people. And I don't think it's unrecognized, and I don't think that people are ungrateful, or whatever, but I just think that you just you're like the ever-ready battery, actually. Just keep on keeping on giving, and there's a balance, and that balance is going to be forced on you in some way if you don't sort of heed what I'm saying here. So let's get a little bit more information on each. I'm going to use the Heart Code Oracles. So firstly, I'm going to use the Heart Code Oracles around love and relationships to see a little bit more about this delicate relationship energy that you're around. Because this is in your private life, either as a love relationship or friendships or family. It's just that those skills you use in your work, I think, as well. So let's see a little bit more about the love and relationships energy. So firstly, we have validation. It's a little bit hard to read it, so I'm just going to tell you what the cards say. And the second one is twin flame. Oh, okay, all right. So that's interesting with the Isa, I stand still, and then the breakthrough, the change, and so forth. Couple of ways of reading this. Firstly, part of this, not going to the twin flame, but going to the validation. Part of this way that you deal with relationships might be that's part of how you validate it, because you are so good at it. And I think you need to think about that. I think you need to start to validate yourself and understand you don't need to always fix up everybody else's rubbish and everybody else's drama to feel validated. So that's important, and that's why the Two of Pentacles is reversed. I think it's like it's hard for you to make decisions for yourself, because it's almost as though you're looking for that kind of nod of yes, you're doing the right thing in this relationship. You may well have been taught as a child to consider others, always consider others, and that's a good thing to be taught. But when it's taken to extremes, if you think about it, if you are in a dynamic, a family dynamic or a friendship dynamic, and you're taught by the others to consider others, it often is so that they don't have to consider you. Like if you're always the one doing that, and that's part of how you're validated as a good person, then that gives them free rein. And this doesn't necessarily have to be conscious. They don't necessarily have to be malefic, but it is part of the dynamic that can happen sometimes. So I think this is definitely saying, think about how else to validate yourself if it wasn't just in being able to fix up every skirmish that every friendship and every relationship you had. Now, there's also twin flame. So for you, there's potential that there's a relationship around you that's hard work because it's a twin flame. And that's often the case with twin flames. They're not necessarily the easiest relationship. It may also be that it's saying that once you've moved past having to be the medicine to a relationship, the curer, the healer of a relationship, and you start to get that more into balance, that's when you could bring a twin flame energy in, and that could definitely pick up the haggle as disruption. There's something very disruptive and transformative about twin flame relationships. So if you're in one at the moment, then you have to think about the balance that you're doing for validation and what some of the learnings of the twin flame is for you. If you aren't, it may be that once you start to sort some of that out, there's going to be a very major relationship coming in, and that's one of the reasons why it's important for you to do this at the moment. And if you just met someone and you're wondering if they're twin flame, I think the fact that you're wondering probably suggests they are. So you need to think about what that means in terms of how you relate and the role that you've tended to take in relationships. So now I want to look at career and finance. So we've got promotion. That's nice. And penalties. Okay, so I mean, this is a finance card, and so that can turn up when somebody, has penalties for maybe sort of not following regulatory practices or anything like that. But I don't think that's what this is saying here. I think it's you not penalising yourself. You'll have a promotion, you're moving forward. You are very much recognised for being able to do this stuff, and you are probably very much a natural leader in that servant leadership sort of model. If you don't know what that is, look it up, because I think you very much fit that. But the servant leader also needs to have the support from their team as well. It needs to be a reciprocal thing. But I feel for some of you, your unconventional approach is going to move you up the ladder, but there is something here, the penalty of that for you, the thing to think about, and I feel like this is more material resources rather than monetary resources, is that it has the risk of adding to this sense of obligation to others. So think about that. Think about how to get a model of being a leader or moving forward in your career doesn't just add even more to your requirements in some way, because that's very validating to get promoted. But as I say, your main thing at the moment is how much you give to others, and you just got to get that into balance. So to help with that, let's have a look at lifestyle and well-being down here, where you're introspecting, where you're really looking into yourself to understand that and to release your new energy with the Fool. So we've got projecting. That's interesting. I think that came up in one of the others, so there could be a connection between the two. And we've got triggers. Okay. All right. So I think part of what you'll get when you go within, when you really start to go within and start to understand this, there's something about a dynamic. I suspect for many of you, a family dynamic or very early friendships, or possibly a very early first love that was difficult and where you felt you always had to appease that person in some way. There's something about looking within yourself that does have triggers for you that will bring things up. So it would suggest very much, particularly, you'll know this, if you're the sort of person who knows how to mediate and deal with conflict, you could be projecting out that energy. I don't think you project your triggers on someone else. You're too good at this for that to be the case. But I do think you could be projecting out your need to look at yourself onto other people, because the triggers within you are fairly significant. So I think if you help others, you need to go and find the help that you can get. This is very much suggesting, could be a good friend if there's one who's like you, who isn't relying on you all the time. But for many, I think it might be, like looking into different sort of therapeutics, different sorts of, it could be personality profiling, it could be meditation practices. But I think getting support and advice from an established regime or from a professional would be helpful, because there is something where you're going to understand about yourself. It's like the wounded healer. It's like Chiron, who heals but cannot heal themselves. And until they understand that and have that breakthrough, they get stuck in this energy of always doing what they've always been doing, which in your case has been the healer of others. So it's really focusing on yourself and healing yourself is in fact going to make you better at all this stuff that you're doing anyway, but it's going to bring it more into balance. So let's look at those questions for you. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about the first question. It needs to be a yes-no question, and then I'm going to put a yes-no for the two questions. So we'll start with the first question. think about that. And what I'm going to talk about with this tarot energy is what the energies around a yes or no mean. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It's just things to consider when you're making that decision. So think about your question, pile 3. Okay, so there's something very material about this question, whatever it is, whether it's about career, whether it's about money, a business thing, whether it's about health. There's something very material because we have so much earth energy across both options. Yes is about independence in some ways, material and other independence with the 9 of earth. It represents that in some way, and making a choice to do that, a choice for more independence and being able to judge in some way. I do get the sense that some of this may be about claiming the right to judge others. It's almost like maybe you haven't done that. That's part of what's going down here. You've kind of stopped yourself from doing that and always focusing on what they need. But it's about that. It's also potentially an opportunity that's going to come. In fact, it might be you just have a sense of it. Maybe it hasn't come yet, but it's a decision that you have to make quickly if there is a decision coming. So yes is a quick decision that has to do with more independence of choice materially in some way. No is saying that you don't think whatever this thing is going to ultimately bring you the abundance you want with the 10 of earth reversed, or take you further in your career or whatever it might be. And you do have a sense of the abundance that you should have, but it's not as stable for some reason. Now, it's interesting. It's just at the moment, if you go with no, it's because you feel in the end it's not going to create something that is stable. Whereas over here, it feels like yes says it will be. So that's a decision. Whether or not the thing is the thing that you want to be stable, that's up to you. And the fact that the Empress is there and the right way up when she was reversed under there around career, it suggests if this is around your career that no might ultimately bring some balance into the caring and nurturing side of your nature, but for some reason you feel as though it's not as stable. Like no suggests you would go with no if you felt the thing was not as stable. Okay, let's have a look at the second question. Please think about that, and we'll put out the energies for yes and no for that. Okay, so whatever this question is, yes takes some courage to do, and your unconventional nature, unconventional approach. I like that with the Fool and with the Hierophant reverse there. And it takes your skills. It is something, a courageous new way of using your skills in some way, or your relation, or if it's a relationship, it's the courage to sort of take on and build a relationship that's unconventional in some way. The no energy is a little bit more retiring, but it's really hiding who you really are, maybe because of conflict. No suggests that whatever this is, you feel at the moment like you couldn't be true to who you are yet. You have to be a little bit hidden because there's conflict around it. So this is why there's courage. The courage is necessary for the yes, and being prepared to be unusual and stand out from the crowd. Whereas over here, there's sort of like there's conflict if you are true to who you are in some way, and you may not want to be seen as much. So it's really going to come down to, I think, whether or not you are more wanting to do more introspection and hide away a bit at this point in time rather than moving forward, or whether you just go, no, whatever this is, I'm just going to go forward. Yes, yes, yes. So it's sort of, that's up to you again. So I think putting these two together, I feel like there's maybe a connection between the two questions, and there's sort of something you'll need to decide on quite quickly. And the second side of this is about that balance. It's about what is this really doing for the balance. I get the sense that you feel if you really became too focused on yourself, you're going to get a lot of pushback. But, you need to think about that, pile 3, you really do. So what was also under the Chakra Placement Stones was a question for love and relationships, career and finance and general well-being using the Stories Oracle, which has constellations and a question. So I'll read each of the questions because the print is quite fine. It might be hard to read it on the screen. So for love and relationships, the question is Andromeda, or the constellation is Andromeda, and the question is, how can you best trust and protect your heart? Yeah, how can you with all that drama around you? You really do need to look after yourself. You really care. I mean, it's lovely to care. I don't want to say don't care about others to the degree you do, because it's part of who you are, but you really do need to protect your heart as well. And particularly if a twin flame energy is coming in, I've got to say, you know, you've got to protect your heart in a situation like that. They're very challenging sort of relationships normally. Here in career and finance, it's the constellation is Pavo, and the question is, what if you had to close your eyes to see clearly? Okay. So yes, I mean, that's, again, maybe you need to close your eyes to some of the drama around you and so forth so that you can see your own way clearly. It's like there's too much sensory input coming into you. You're too much called upon by other people. And then down here around your well-being, you have Pegasus, and the question is, what if loving even the undiscovered parts of ourselves is the greatest act of revolution we are capable of? Well, there you go, going right down to the depths with the well. You know, you need to really look at that, and you need to own that you don't have to be a saint because you are a bit saint-like, I've got to say. So you've got to own that you don't need to. You can actually have stuff for yourself. That's the breakthrough. You're stuck at the moment because it's like someone taught you at some point that you really just had to consider everybody above yourself, and it's time to kind of get that in balance. So to help and to wrap this up, pile 3, I'm going to use one card from the Creative Soul Mandela Oracle, because I really think, what are you trying to create with what this question is with your next step? So let's see what Spirit wants to say as a summary energy for you. Mind. Okay, I think that is a dual thing. Firstly, I think it does say you need to go into your mind, you need to understand, you need to put this in some sort of intellectual framework so you really understand the balance, because you come so much from your heart that you're drawn into it, like you use your mind to fix everything up. That's very clever, as I say, and very nuanced. But you come from your heart all the time, and so it's always selfless. But you need to go into your mind and understand the balance, that the mind will help the heart on that level. They're not in argument with each other. They actually help each other when they're in balance. So go into the mind to work out what that balance is and to make your decisions. Like, make sure that they as much resonate to your mind and your philosophy and belief as they do to your heart, because you do tend to sit in your heart more than possibly helps you. I think the other side of the mind is that your mind might get a bit overheated sometimes in these scenarios. So take the time out that you need. Take the hibernation energy of the bear underneath those cards, so that you take the time out that you need to take, because something is going to cause this breakthrough. It's coming outside of your control, but it's there for you. It's for a breakthrough. It's not for a breakdown. It's for a breakthrough. But you need to be physically ready for that. That's why it's important to really start to bring the balance in now. So pile 3, you are sort of one of those precious people who really puts other people first, genuinely. You need to get it more into balance. I think if you do, then you can move forward very quickly on whatever it is that you want to do, and you can take the next steps that are really going to be more in balance for you. But don't neglect what you can see and understand. Don't neglect the mind things that you bring to the table every day to help other people resolve stuff. Do it for yourself as well, because that brings the balance much more in, and then that breakthrough energy can make you feel like you're no longer stuck in one place. So I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe, and if you do know what this is, I'd be really interested to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.